Podcast. My name is Alex, I'm your host, and this is episode 5. For all of my returning viewers, thanks for coming back. It's great to see you. And for any new viewers that might be stopping by, welcome to the show. This is a podcast about knitting, crochet, other fun crafty things. It's about music and things in life in general. So whether you're new or returning, welcome, great to see you, and thanks for being here. Got a lot to cover today. We have a couple of new segments that I'd like to get into. So with that, let's get started. Just a few quick announcements, one quick announcement anyway. I've been trying to make this a monthly podcast, but as you can see, that schedule hasn't exactly been working out. So at the very least, it's going to be a quarterly podcast, and I've got a lot of changes coming up, which I'll get into, or that have already taken place, which I'll get into in the live chatter portion at the end of the episode. But just wanted to give you kind of a heads up on that. And it's already been quite a while since I last recorded. But anyway, let's get started. I do have a couple of finished objects for you today. Then again, this has been in the span of a few months. But I digress. 2 of them, so I have 3 total. 2 of them will be shared through photographs because they are with their recipients. One of them I do have in person with me. So I'm going to start off with one of the ones that is not here, and that is I finished a corner-to-corner blanket. So that was my first crochet project in what feels like forever. And in the last episode, you saw the yarn. So here is the finished object itself right now. And then the yarn that I used is I'm blanking out on what it is. It's Joann's big twist value, and it's basically kind of like Red Heart, or actually it's better than Red Heart. It's just your basic acrylic. And the pattern is actually a Red Heart pattern. So I will post the name and the designer down below, and that's where you can find it. And you can find it on the Red Heart. That's what it's called, and you can find it on the Red Heart website. I found it through Ravelry. So if you look up like a corner-to-corner blanket, that's where you'll be able to find it. And that one took a long time. Actually, for a blanket, it's probably my fastest project, but just in general, it felt like it slogged on for a while. And I had made that for my work. I work at San Diego Humane Society, for those of you who have not met me before, if this is your first time joining. And we had, back in June, we had our big annual fundraiser, Day of Giving. And that project was an item to be offered as a thank you gift in an opportunity drawing. If you're going to call a spade, then yes, it was an item to raffle off for charity. However, we can't use that terminology because it sounds like gambling. But I digress. So that I started that early in May. I don't remember the exact date. And then I finished it maybe the week before Day of Giving. So a good solid month plus. And funnily enough, my coworker, and it's kind of heartwarming when you think about it, because my coworkers got to see me work on this project during my lunch breaks and during my 15-minute breaks. And they got to see it grow. And bless them, they took money from their own pockets and donated it for Day of Giving to have a chance to win. And one of them actually won the blanket, my coworker Thomas. And he says that he fights his dog for it every day. He has two cute little Maltipus or Bichons. And one of them, every morning she drags it off the bed, down the stairs, takes it to her own bed. And he's like, "Excuse me, that's mine." So I'm glad that it got to stay in our little family, so to speak. So that is finished object number 1. Finished object number 2, I'm gonna kind of split it up so that way you can actually see something in person. A while back, last month sometime, I did some dyeing. And this is the beautiful result. I'm very happy with how it came out. And the base that I used was just Patton's sock croy or croy sock or whatever it is. And I had originally split the skein into 2, as you can see. And the original intent was to knit the socks and then dye the finished object. But thinking about it, I'm like, I want to dye it now, and it's probably not going to be as much fun knitting just plain yarn. And the base color is like a natural brown tone, so it gives it kind of that muted, just such a really pretty muted feel or hue. And the method that I used was just, or the dyes that I used was just actually food coloring. In Springtime with Alex and Jesse, we did the Easter egg tabs. Now with this, I just used the liquid food dye and kind of mixed the colors according to the package. So for the teal down below, I did, I think it was 5 drops of blue and 1 green. And then for the green up here, I did 3 drops of green and 1 drop of yellow. And this batch kind of required a little bit of tinkering. And that's because when I first dyed it, I used a baking dish, just a nice glass baking dish. And when you're doing acid dyes, any non-reactive vessel will work. But I wanted to get that kind of variegated effect, that two-tone effect when it's in the skein. And we'll see how it looks when it's caked up and worked up and yada yada yada. So I did the vinegar hot water bath because again, I didn't want the dyes to all just kind of meld together right away. I wanted them to stay separate. And I massaged it in, put on my gloves, and I let it sit. And I had the oven preheated so that it would stay nice and toasty. And when I pulled it out, it was absolutely beautiful from the view at the top. Now, when I lifted the skeins up, the top half, again, gorgeously, gorgeously dyed, absolutely perfect. Apparently, I didn't massage it in well enough though, because the bottom half was completely undyed. So that was frustrating. So what I did was I remixed my dye, and instead of doing the baking dish, I took my yarn and had 2 mason jars, one with one color, the other with the other, and just kind of stuck each half in. So like that, and then I still had it in the baking dish so that I can drizzle some of the rest of each of the dyes on top, and flipped it over, massaged it in, and that step is what did the trick for me. And as you can see, absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So I can't wait to knit that up into a pair of socks. And then my last finished object, again, you'll have to see a little snippet of, just a little piece of it, because it is a gift for someone. And I think we all know who that someone is. Sticks and churn. And I did some sewing. Again, not going to say what it is. Once she receives the package, it is on its way. It's in the mail right now. Once she receives the package, she can show it off in her own podcast. But at least you'll get to see the fabric. And the fabric where I got the fabric was Joann's. It was just a couple of fabric quarters, and it was a lot of fun. It felt good to get back on the sewing machine. There were a couple of parts that was a little rusty, but once I got back into the groove, it was fun. And that's all I have for finished objects. Seems like that's recorded in May, June, July, August. Yeah, so average a finished object a month. Not too bad. And then I have one work in progress right now. Probably remember this. So I'm working on my mom's kaleidoscope socks, and the yarn is Alexandra's Crafts in the Black Butte base. And again, the colorway is kaleidoscope. I love the way it's working up into the sock. And the yarn is a blend of merino wool, superwash of course, yak, and silk. So nice blend of fibers there. And I'm just doing the same toe-up sock recipe that you saw in the last episode. I do Jody's Magic Cast On, and the needles I'm using are size US 1.5, 2.5 millimeter for metric folks. And I do 16 stitches for the toe, and then 32 stitches per side, so a total stitch count of 64. And then the heel is the Fish Lips Kiss heel, which again, I cannot go on enough about that pattern. It is only $1, but it's not just the method for doing the heel. It goes into all kinds of cool things about sock construction and how to get the perfect fit for your recipient. It goes into making a cardboard cutout of your foot or your recipient's foot. All kinds of cool things. So by all means, definitely worthwhile. It's the best dollar you'll ever spend, basically. So I did that, and then the cuff, I'm finally working on the leg. And after a lot of trial and error, I finally settled on just a nice nubbly seed stitch. ankle and leg. And then I'll probably just do a basic ribbed cuff. And I say a lot of trial and error because I'd asked my mom what kind of pattern she'd like, and I found a few pretty ones for her. And the one that we had selected was had involved 1x1 cables, and believe me, it was absolutely beautiful. I loved the way it looked. However, when it came time to putting it on, it would not stretch over her heel. I don't know what it is about these cables, but they don't stretch. So if you're watching this and you have a sock pattern that has beautiful cables and that stretches over a heel, please let me know and let me know what I'm doing wrong, because these patterns are beautiful, and I look at the reviews and the comments on Ravelry before I start, and nobody mentions that it doesn't stretch over the heel. And we don't exactly have big feet. Long, yes. However, our feet are narrow, and it shouldn't take a lot of effort to put on a sock over a narrow foot, but somehow it does. It's just not elastic enough. Rant over. But yeah, if there's one that you've had success with and you're like, yeah, this is really nice and stretchy, this is great, please let me know and I will look it up. Sorry, I just got a text from my dad. Anyway. And I'm recording this on my phone, by the way. So that is the one and only work in progress. Once I finish this, of course, I will have sock number 2 to do. And I think from this point forward, I'm gonna stick with 2 at a time socks. It just makes things easier. And then time for one of my new segments, or a new way of doing things for selecting my next project. And I've kind of taken this cue from Honeybee Knits. Hi, Melissa. You probably don't know me, but I really like your podcast. Anyway, I've taken this idea from her Whip-It jar. And what she does is she'll take whips that are kind of languishing, write them down on little slips of paper, put them in a jar, and every podcast, if she finishes one of those, she will draw for the next one. And that's her Whip-It Thursday jar. So I've kind of taken that idea and kind of put my own twist on it. And in this case, I'm using it to kind of help me make up my mind on which pattern to knit next. Because I'll go, oh yeah, I want to do this, but then I'll go, oh no, I kind of want to do this one. So this will kind of help me stick with it. So on my Ravelry queue, looking at one of my other devices, where is it? There we go, got it all figured out. So I'm kind of taking cue from Honeybee Knits and using like a random drawing instead of little slips of paper. I'm just going to use random number generator on my other little device, my old iPhone. And to do that, I'm using my cue on Ravelry. So I've got number 1 is Anna Baltzer Wings of Peace, Hintermost by Bristol Ivy. Oops. Villette, and you know, I'm almost tempted to either do Villette or Hintermost, but I'm kind of gonna let Siri decide on this one. Then 4 is the Magpie Tendency. 5 is Broadway Nights. 6, 7, and 8. For 8, I just have Fish Lips Kiss Heel in my queue, and that just indicates that I'm going to be making a pair of socks. So let's see what we get. And for this first one, I'm going to cheat because after this pair of socks, I really don't want to knit another pair. So I am going to say, I'm going to ask Siri to pick a random number 1 through 7.
The answer is 6.
So we have number 6. Let's see what that is. Ooh, organza. And that'll be a fun one. That'll be a nice, that looks like it'll be a nice quick knit. So the pattern is organza, and it's by Lisa Richardson, and it calls for Rowan Silky Lace. And I actually already have the pattern as a printed version, and it was through a special at Yarning for You. So Yarning for You just became a Rowan flagship store, which I'm actually going to go to the yarn tasting tonight. So that'll be exciting. I'm almost wondering if I want to do acquisitions now or save that for later. Well, we'll play it by ear. I think I'll start it now, take a break, and then continue a little bit later. So it looks like organza is the winner. So that'll be, once I finish these, that's what I will be knitting. Although I may or may not cast it on earlier, just because I really want to work on something other than socks. I had to rip out, probably a good 3 inches of cable-y whatchamadoozle. But anyway, that is what I'm working on now, and we have future knitting. So let's get into some acquisitions. If you would like to skip ahead to music or live chatter, I'll have the show notes and times at the bottom, so you can just click the link and skip ahead. Or if you just want to say goodbye now, see you later. All right, for those of us remaining, I will admit I was a little naughty last weekend, but I did also have a few lovely things sent by my darling friend Jessie of 2 Sticks and String. Hello. But anyway, so I'm going to start with those because when I was visiting her in April, one of the things that I got for myself was a cuckoo clock. And unfortunately, the box was just a little too big to fit into either of my suitcases. So I just gave her the money for shipping, and she sent it to me. Now, I was just expecting her to just send the box. Of course, she would throw in some yarny goodies. So so. And I will say right now that I'll only be showing a small handful of what she sent, and that's because the rest is packed away safe and sound, because I'm gonna be looking for an apartment pretty darn soon. But we'll get into that later. But anyway, first yarny goodie. Of course, it wouldn't be a shipment from Germany if she didn't send some Regia. This is the Vierfardig in the Arnie and Carlos line. And the colorway is 3764. And how gorgeous and summery is this? Absolutely beautiful. It has kind of raspberry reds, coral, tan, gray, blue, summer colors. This is a fun yarn. I'm planning on making just a little pair of ankle socks, something that I can wear to work, and that'll just kind of show a little bit above my shoes. And then another fun pair. This is Esslinger Wolle, or Eschlinger, that's one that I don't really remember how to pronounce. And this is Sockenwolle. And it is, of course, 75 superwash, 25 nylon. And the colorway is Blau Turkish, or blue turquoise. And it's just colorway number 0001. And oh my gosh, absolutely beautiful. Again, another fun pair of summer socks. Another one that she sent, speaking of socks, we have Marion Jade, and the colorway is called When the Rain Came. And oh my goodness, talk about my colors. So it's got, of course, that beautiful lime peel green, and it's not like a bright, well, it kind of is a bright neon green, but it's not like boom highlighter green. It's just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. Definitely a bright citron green. We have a nice pale sky blue, kind of a deep not really deep, but kind of a darker teal turquoise, and kind of a pretty stormy gray. And then the contrasting or coordinating heel, toe, and cuff mini. It's kind of like a very dark denim-y blue, and it's a nice tonal. So once I'm back into socks, that's one of the things I'll be working on. And this is, and the blend is organic eco-processed merino and nylon. And of course it's an 80-20 blend. And then the last yarn that is not packed away in a box, she actually sent 2 of these. We have Knit Picks, and this is the Stroll Fingering, and the colorway is Gemstone, and it's a hand painted. It's beautiful, beautiful amethyst purples. And it's not just purple, it goes from like a light periwinkle blue to like a fuchsia pinky purple to like a grape soda, and darker to like a very dark, almost black. And what I especially love about this colorway is while it's not one that I would have picked out for myself, you know, I think because it was given to me, it just makes it even prettier. And I go, oh my gosh, you know, this is gorgeous. Why wouldn't I have picked that out for myself? I don't know, but it is beautiful, and got 2 skeins of it. Not sure what I'm gonna make with it, but it's gorgeous. There's at least 1 more skein, but you'll see it in a future episode. And then, not yarny, but it is definitely a knit-related accessory. Beautiful shawl brooch. How pretty is this, you guys? And on like a nice royal purple. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely stunning. All right, so that's what was sent to me. And then again, last week I was a little naughty, and I went to Yarning for You, and it was California Yarn Company Day for them. That's their little celebration, and basically kind of promoting California dyers. And I got 2 yarns. One of them was, of course, California Dyer, and this is Elevate Yarns. I've gotten one of theirs before. They had a slightly different logo back then, but back when I got that one, but it's hand dyed in the San Bernardino County. It says hand dyed in a California national forest. So that's pretty cool. And I believe, I'm trying to think of the name of the town. I think it's Running Springs, which feels like ages ago, but my family and I would go up to Big Bear, and we'd always pass through Running Springs. And so that just brings a bit of nostalgia for me. And this colorway is called Bluff Point. And oh my gosh, it is absolutely beautiful. And it's speckled with pinks, peach, a little bit of green, brown. It's just absolutely beautiful. And then the other yarn that I got is Olan in the Sock Sport base, and the colorway is called Alchemy. And again, it's speckled with dark foresty greens, teal, pink, a little bit of highlighter colors, but it's mostly white. And I got those 2, intending them to go with a couple that I already have in my stash. I'm either going to do a fade or like a kind of a color block project. I don't know if I want to do a shawl or, or other garment. There we go. But it's going to go with each of these, which were purchased at another time. So this you saw at our Christmas / holidays special. This is Candy Skein in the Yummy Fingering. Is it the Yummy Fingering? Yes, it is. And this is the Eggnog colorway. And this is their color of the month, one of their color of the month ones. And this was for December 2018, of course. And then this one I got kind of, I think last summer. This is Olan, and I don't remember the colorway name. Let me look it up, but it's still the sports sock. And it is absolutely beautiful. Let me see. Middle of Nowhere is the name of this colorway. And again, oh my gosh, so pretty. I absolutely love it. And so I thought with finding these, you know, I wanted just something to kind of supplement it and maybe kind of tie them together in a way. And that's what I love about the fades. I think since this is quite a bit of white on white, I might do something like this. I don't know. But anyway, that is all I've got for crafty things. Now let's take a break and go into, then when I return, we'll go into the next segment. All right, guys, I am back. Different day, different attire, but same place, same me. So I think the last time I left off with, I was going to jump into one of the new segments. However, there is one thing that I would like to address because I'm very excited. Last night, I got to participate at Yarning for You's ROWAN Yarn Tasting event. That was a lot of fun. It was a full house, and they had all kinds of fun things. Pardon the crinkling, by the way. I'm getting out the stuff that all the goodies. So essentially, what a yarn tasting event is. Granted, this is my first one, but you get to basically sample the different yarns a company has to offer. Sometimes it might be a new line with different fibers, or it could be a new brand. In this instance, Yarning for You became a flagship store for ROWAN. So we got to sample their different yarns. It was, I think, 20 per ticket. But anyway, with your attendance, you got to take home. Each of the guests got to take home 2 50-gram skeins of their soft yak DK. Oh my goodness, it is absolutely wonderful. Beautifully, beautifully soft. And it is a 76% cotton, 15% yak, and 9% nylon blend. So you've got some really good fibers going on, and the yak gives the cotton a nice softness. The nylon, of course, gives it a little bit of durability. And of course, the cotton gives it a nice kind of breathability, which is nice if you live in a warm climate. And so we each got 2 skeins, 50 grams each, and pattern booklet. And so this is the Beanie Collection by Quail Studios for ROWAN. It has all kinds of cute patterns, and the yarn in it features, or it shows you what the yarns look like that they use. So, for instance, here is the Soft Yak DK. And the colorway doesn't have a name, at least not on the skein, but if you're interested, it's shade 00245. And it's just such a nice khaki color. And it's funny because it's not something that I would have chosen for myself, but it was the last, I got there a little bit late, and it was one of the last seats. It was either this or black. And I figured, you know, it's such a nice neutral color, it'll go with anything. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. I took home 3 little snippets. It's not enough to really do anything with, but the colors were fabulous. And oh my gosh, they are so soft. So this first one is Kid Silk DK, or Kids, what am I talking about? It is not DK. Not DK by any means. It is a lace weight. It's the Kid Silk Haze. Absolutely beautiful. It's definitely a bright, bright, bright pink. Like highlighter doesn't even begin to describe it. It's like a fuchsia. I think that would be paired up with something a little bit more neutral. And then I forget what this one is. I want to say it's like the classic lace, but oh my goodness. It's just so delicate. That twist is absolutely beautiful. And the color is out of this world. Once I get this up and edited, I will put in I will add a caption with what this is and the shade number. Because oh my gosh, it is to die for. It is absolutely dreamy. So, so soft. And then the last one is an alpaca blend. And same thing, I'll put up the name and fiber content, colorway number, etc. in a caption. It's not quite coming out true to color. It's coming out a little bit more blue. It's got it's a greeny blue, let's just say. But again, absolutely beautiful. It looks and feels like mohair, but it's not itchy like mohair can tend to be. Again, beautiful. So that was a lot of fun. Got to connect with other knitters. There were little snackies provided. One of the owners, so to preface, it's co-owned by a mother-daughter team, and the mom baked some amazing scones, blueberry, cranberry orange. I think that was it, but so good. So we got food, we got yarn. I even bought a little extra skein because I mean they're holding this event. I mean you might as well purchase something that they're representing. So I got this silky lace, excuse me, and this is the Moonstone colorway, and it is 65% cotton, 35% silk. And this is actually, not this color obviously, but this is the same yarn that I will be making the organza top that I drew earlier, or that I pulled out from the random number generator. And the colorway that I'll be using for that one is Jade. It's like a citrus green, not quite highlighter lime green, but it's definitely a bright citrus green. And for this one, I'm actually going to make just a nice little cropped cami, just as a nice little layering piece. So I found some cute little undergarment patterns, shall we say, that I will modify for that purpose. Just gonna take a sip real quick. And just fizzy water. I love fizzy, but anymore I don't really drink a lot of soda. Mostly because I've been so addicted to fizzy water. Every time I taste soda, it's like, holy cow, this is very, very sweet. All right, moving on to the next segment that I promised. And this is, it's still got a working title, but for right now, I'm calling it Tips and Tricks of the Trade, or Tools and Tricks of the Trade. There we go. And in this segment, whether it's now or future episodes, I'll be going over it's basically going to be a little tutorial on certain techniques or certain skills that might be handy, or maybe there's a certain product that's like, oh my gosh, this is really cool, here's how to use it. Still in the works, but I recorded this earlier, so yay, more wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey stuff. Yeah, my inner Whovian starting to show. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alrighty guys, so for this first edition of Tools and Tips and Tricks of the Trade, whatever the title is, for this first edition, I would like to go over how to read charts in a pattern. Now, sometimes a pattern can be just a chart with the key and maybe a guide for those unfamiliar with certain maneuvers, how to go about making those stitches, or it could be used as an accompaniment to, say, for instance, a lace pattern or cables, or a shawl, for instance. And the reason why I chose cables as my first tip, so to speak, is that I messaged a friend of mine on Ravelry with a pattern, and if you're watching, you know who you are. I'm not going to mention names. And she messages me back, and I just sent her the link. It was a free pattern, and she goes, "This is really cool. I want to make this, but unfortunately I don't know how to read chart, so I can't." Well, for that person, for that friend, this is dedicated to you. So here we have two examples of charts, as well as the legend or key as you would find on a map, because essentially it's a visual guide. It is a map of the project that you are working on. So each box represents a single stitch. And in this case, we have knit on the right side, purl on the wrong side, and that'll generally just be a plain box. A box with a dot in the middle is going to, or it could be a dash as well. That's going to be purl on the right side, knit on the wrong side. If you have an open circle in the middle, that usually indicates a yarn over. And of course, unless you are dealing with increases and decreases and your project is getting larger or smaller, you're going to want to have decreases to go with the yarn overs. So we have the slip slip knit, also seen as S2K and other abbreviations. And we have knit two together. And the way these lean, the way they're indicated, indicate the direction in which those stitches are going to lean. So with this slash going diagonally up to the left, it's going to be a slip slip knit, and that's the direction in which the stitch is going to lean again. And same with the knit two together, and pardon me as I adjust my position. And then this one we'll get into a little bit later, but first I want to go over some basics on this first chart. So this first chart, for those of you already familiar with reading charts, it's basically going to be a basic eyelet flower, and on either side we're going to have garter stitch. Because what do you do with garter stitch? What does it look like? That's right, it's got the purl bumps, followed by the knit valleys, purl, knit, and essentially that's what garter stitch looks like charted out. There we go. I'm looking at this through the camera rather than directly. Here we go. So yeah, so this is essentially what garter stitch looks like charted out. Now when you read For those of us who knit right-handed, this is generally how we knit. Or lefties who happen to knit right-handed because they didn't have a chance to learn how to knit left-handed. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little more than a little ahead of myself. But anyway, generally speaking, when we knit, we start on our left hand, we take the stitches on our right hand side, move them to the other needle. So we basically knit right to left, and that's how we read the charts. Now in this, if you're knitting flat, then it'll curly cue around as you flip your work, and you'll just be knitting these 2 stitches because, again, purl on the right side, but then we're on the wrong side, so knit on the wrong side. So basic garter stitch, so we'll knit these, purl these, knit these 2, then flip our work over and do it the same. Now if we were doing this as part of a tube, we would be consistently going 1 all the way across, knit all the way across. And then for the garter stitch, we're going to purl these 2, knit up into the last 2 stitches, purl those 2, and so on and so forth. Now for this 3rd row, we're going to start here. And so the first 3 stitches we're going to knit. And then to keep our stitch count the same across the row, we're going to, what's that one? Slip, slip, knit. And then do our yarn over. Now we're even because that yarn over is a way of increasing. Knit 1, yarn over, and then so we have the direction the same, we're going to knit 2 together just to keep things consistent or symmetrical. There we go, that's the word I was looking for. And then knit those last 3, and then basically every other row is going to be exactly the same. And then we get to row 5, so we do row 4, we get to row 5, knit the first 2, slip, slip, knit, yarn over, and just for the heck of it, you could do a yarn over and then a knit 2 together, but just decided to do another slip, slip, knit, yarn over, knit, yarn over, knit 2 together, and then do row 6. We're going that way if you are doing it in the round, and then 7 basically repeats 3, and so on and so forth. And some of us are exclusively visual learners, where you see the chart and maybe it's maybe you're repeating this flower like 5 times. If that's the case, let me pause momentarily so I can grab a colored pencil. All right, so I'm back, got my colored pencil. I'm silly, I thought I started recording this, but it didn't. So let's say a pattern is going to ask you to repeat that for a certain amount of time. So what it'll possibly do is have the repeated portion emphasized or outlined in a different color. So in this case, I'm using a dark green. Here we go. And it'll say repeat within this bracket, X amount of times, and then sometimes it'll have sometimes there might be an extra gap. So for instance, I'm just gonna chart out row 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Or I'll do 5. Yeah, I'll do row 5 since that's the widest portion. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I've got 8 up there. There we go. There we go. And then, so I've got decrease my yarn over my knit stitch. Yarn over, decrease. It's funny because I write these from right to left, or left to right, but you read them right to left. Here we go. So maybe it'll ask you to repeat this segment, or this is just the middle segment of that repeat. So this is the part that you repeat, and then maybe there will be, let's just pretend for a moment that this is a different color, or I'll just kind of make it really dark, because sometimes if you're printing black and white, if you do a printed pattern, maybe it'll just be boldened. There we go. And then it'll have you do one more, just normal. And then just imagine I didn't do that purl stitch. And then this last part is either the ending or the beginning part of the pattern, kind of the bookend, so to speak. So that's how you read repeats. You'll repeat that a certain amount of times, and then you'll have the bookend, so to speak. That's just my term for it. Either at the end, or sometimes there will be a bookend at the beginning, or sometimes a little bit of both. So for instance, those first 2 knit stitches will not be repeated across the pattern. So you'll have, that part just light, normal, not in bold, and then the repeated part either in bold or a different color, and then your ending part, end of the row, will be a normal font. So that is a kind of a brief overview on basic chart reading, but then let's get into when there are increases or decreases. So the last one I left out is the stitch that's filled in completely. I said not a stitch, placeholder. So that means if you see that in a pattern, that means you are going to be either decreasing and those stitches will no longer exist, or in this case, will be increasing, and those are just placeholders of stitches yet to come. So the first row will actually start right here, and so you'll knit 4, and then flip your work or what have you. In fact, this is if you're like me and you do toe up socks using magic loop and the magic cast on, this would be an idea of how to chart that out, how this would look charted. So let's see. I put an M for make one. In fact, it would help to add that to the legend, so I'm going to do that now, and pardon my finger. So you might see it as a different abbreviation, or if you're doing maybe a shawl with kind of an eyelet border, you know, you might also see this as a yarn over. There we go. And kind of so on and so forth. There we go. So, in this instance, we don't have to contend with purl stitches or, you know, other decreases. Nothing fancy. It's just increases on either side every other row. So you'll start here, knit 4, then the next row you'll knit, yarn over, knit 2, yarn over, and knit the last one. So you're still knitting 4, but then you add the yarn overs. And so the next row, you'll knit all 6 stitches all the way across, and again, so on and so forth. And I would honestly say that if you were doing, sometimes you might see it as the odd rows are the wrong side and even rows are the right side. I forgot to indicate this because I didn't really think about it. But then again, I had socks in mind, so I just did the make one. But if you were knitting in the round, it wouldn't matter. But anyway, I think you get the meaning. Please message me if you don't. But again, that's a basic guide on reading charts. And I usually like to use that as a supplement to a written pattern. I don't necessarily like having one or the other solely on its own, but I tend to be a little bit more visual, so having the charts is definitely a help for me. So that's what I have for this edition, and hopefully next time I'll have something more. So I hope you guys found that useful. If there are any suggestions that you have for the next segment or the next edition, there we go, of the segment, or any critiques, comments, positive or constructive criticism, please. Yeah, just comment below and I'll take them into consideration, or if there's if there's something that you want me to try out, let me know. All right, I think now I will get into music and then we'll do the next segment. So I will be right back because prepared. I just need to grab the ukulele. Alrighty, I am back, and right now I think I'm going to just lower the camera real quick, or, well, it's really my phone, but you get my meaning. Because I kind of want you to be able to actually see the uke. Here we go. That's better. So I think last episode I said that I was going to, and previous episodes maybe, I said that I was going to be focusing on one instrument at a time. Well, just this once I've broken my rule, and that's because it's summertime, it's been beautiful, and what better season for the ukulele? And I've been practicing one song in particular. There are still some kinks that need to be worked out, but I'll kind of play the first verse, see if you can guess what it is, and then we can sing it along a little bit too. that's the first verse. Let's see. Well, I think for the second part, for the bridge, I'll kind of need to sing it, but maybe you sound a little familiar? Well, let's find out. And I can't wait to see what my buddies all think of me. Just imagine how much coffee in summer. And that's what I've got for now. But that one's been fun to learn, and with a little bit more practice, before the end of summer, I will post because I mean, it is already August, but I will post a full version of that, and I'm not even going to wait for a new episode. I'm just going to post that on its own. So hopefully that'll come soon. All right, let's jump into the next new segment. So, with the podcasting community, I've just been having a lot of the times that I get to record and talk with you guys. I've really enjoyed myself, and of course, if you don't know from watching back episodes, the Two Sticks and String podcast with my dear friend Jessie, formerly the Army Wife Knitting Life podcast. She was really the one to get me started, and through watching her and recording on my own, I've been exposed to a lot of other fun podcasts. So I thought it would be fun to take a little bit of time and do a more formal shout out to some of my some that I've been watching, or some that I would like to watch. In the last episode, I just had a credit roll with a bunch of different podcast names. But I think for right now, I'm going to start with two, because why not? And then each subsequent episode, I'll focus more on one at a time. So I think I'd like to start out with the Honeybee Knits podcast. So the host of the Honeybee Knits podcast is Melissa, another good friend of Jessie's, and not only does she have her own indie dyed yarn, and she dyes it up at home, she also has a regular full-time job, and I absolutely love her podcast. I really enjoy watching what she makes, and I think another favorite thing about her is that she has a schedule for different projects. So that way she gets a little bit of variety. And to me, that was really inspiring, because I am Miss Monogamous, as Jessie calls me. But there are times when I just really, for instance, the socks that I showed you earlier, those just felt like they've slogged, and they were supposed to be finished for my mom's birthday about a week or so ago. That hasn't happened. I barely have one finished. Actually, I don't even have one finished, but I digress. But she breaks up her projects by day of the week. So for instance, she'll have, I think it's Spinning Tuesday, Whip It Thursday, where I mentioned that one earlier in this episode, where she'll kind of pull out a languishing whip and work on it. And until she finishes it, each Thursday it'll be that same whip. But she'll have Small Project Friday, I believe it is, Sock Saturday. She'll have different, Scrappy Sunday. But I really, really like the way she breaks it down. That way she does get a little variety. And I'm looking into doing that myself. Another thing that I really enjoy is, along with her bi-weekly podcast, I believe it is bi-weekly, she will also do little Instagram stories. So if you follow her on Instagram, that's a lot of fun too, because she does get into, in her podcast, she does get a little bit into what kind of fun things she did over her weekend or over the week. She'll get into other fun things, but there's not quite as much live chatter. And that's kind of something that some people enjoy. I'm one of those people. And she'll post Instagram stories. I know she said that she's trying to be a little bit better about not spending as much time on social media, but it's something that I've really enjoyed. Excuse me one moment. I was talking all day at work, so I'm very, very thirsty. Excuse me. So those are just a few, those are just a small handful of things that I really enjoy about Honeybee Knits. The other podcast that I'd like to mention, so I figured I'd start out with two, because can't really choose one or the other to start out with. Unless you're going to be doing them one after another. But the other podcast that I'd like to give a special mention to is the Crocheting Whovian podcast with Laura, another good friend of Jessie's. And she's based in New York. Forgot to mention Melissa is based in Ohio. And one of the things that I really enjoy about Laura's podcast is, first off, she's funny. She's like brutally honest. Melissa's just adorable, but Laura's funny. She's just brutally honest. She's kind of got that New Yorker persona. Second, she's always got some kind of make-along happening. But also, another thing that I like about her is she's very honest. And not just funny honest, but also, oh shoot, I just saw Linus outside. I forgot to put his little door in. Anyway, she's very honest about, not just the good things, the fun things going on in her life, but she's open about her physical and mental health. And for both, especially the mental aspect, not only does she take care of herself as she needs to, and I'm not going to give anything away, but if you watch one of her most recent episodes, I think it's 70 years. I don't remember. Again, captions. And that's why you do show notes, Alex. But anyway, one of her recent episodes, she delves into it a little bit more. And not only does she admit when she needs help, she'll get that help. She'll take the action that she needs to. And not only even that, but she'll encourage. She's very vocal about ending the stigma and saying, hey, if you need help, reach out. You're not alone. So I very, very much admire that in her. As far as both podcasts go, I love the familiarity of the formats. I think we all kind of, it may be in different orders, but, we all show our whips. We all show our finished objects. We all talk a little bit about life in general. Even if we might be making something similar, you might see similar things in different podcasts. It's all going to be very, very unique to that individual. So that's why I enjoy podcasting. That's why I enjoy watching other podcasts. And in future episodes, you'll see we'll have another review for another podcast. So stay tuned. And with one time warp later, we are back for some live chatter. To give you a reference on how long it took just to record, get everything put together. I think I started recording on like early mid-August. So I think Friday the 9th, and it is now the day after Labor Day. And before I get into live chatter, I do have a quick whip update. My whip turned into a hoe. So when we're turned into a half object, I got the first sock finished. Yay! And so this is what it looks like now. And I tried this on my left foot, which, long story short, my left foot is maybe a size and a half bigger than my right foot, interestingly enough, but it does make a good reference for trying things on, because if it's too squishy, if a shoe or a sock is too squishy, I'd rather it be a little too squishy in the left foot than both feet. Or I don't know how I want to put that, but anyway, tried it on my left foot. It feels comfy, so there we go. And as far as shoe sizes, my mom has smaller feet than I do, but for just general sock size, it's about the same. So anyway, I had her try this on and it fits nicely. And then I've got the heel finished on the second sock. So that feels really good to have made such a huge amount of progress so far. And I've started the seed stitch for the top of the foot. For the back, I'm still doing plain stockinette, and it is windy outside, so I apologize for any sudden shifting of the camera, or jiggling, or any unexpected movement. So buckle up for some turbulence. So just wanted to quickly update you on that. But as far as life goes, it has been absolutely crazy, but crazy in a good way. First off, I have been getting ready to move. I have an apartment lined up, which is awesome. I'll be ready to move in October. Actually, I think our manager said, the apartment manager said that it'll be ready on October 1st. So, yay! So super exciting. And this just came rolling along so quickly, and it's just been, it's been crazy. But it's also been busy with work, because back to school, well, granted, most kids are back to school, families are back in school, summer vacation has been winding down, but right before, it has been really, really busy, especially with Clear the Shelters that had just happened. So that's been fun. But also, I'm just going to open up about it now. I have been in a wonderful relationship with just the loveliest guy. I really like him. We actually met through our parents, but we really hit it off, and we met in May, and we've been together since then. And in fact, this past weekend, we went to Six Flags, and that was actually my first trip to Six Flags. But we've been seeing a lot of each other, so my weekends, between hanging out with him and visiting my grandmother and getting ready for this big move, it's been really busy. But right now, that is all I have for this episode. So tell me what's been going on in your life. I'd love to hear. Also, real quick, I am thinking about, I'm trying to think of a more public Ravelry name. I don't think I'll be changing the name of the podcast anytime soon, but if you have any suggestions, sorry, I'm just adjusting the lighting. There we go. If you have any sort of suggestions, please let me know. Anything animal, crafty related, whatever you've got, I'll take it into consideration. Maybe if there are a whole bunch of good ones, I'll just kind of smoosh the best of each. So look forward to that. Also, I won't be recording until probably late October. Hopefully mid-October if things settle in quickly. But it'll be a while. But then again, you've already waited long enough for this episode, so probably won't be much longer of a wait. But until then, you guys, take care. Great to see you, and have a lovely rest of summer. Bye.